Hi everyone, this is your host Jahidul Islam from Texas, and you are listening Inspired the Youth, Inspired the World podcast, the show that inspires youth to achieve their dreams and be willing to take on challenges to succeed in their life. Today we will listen to a veteran tech professional, Matt Surico, who has been working in the industry for over 25 years, which is almost three quarters of my age. We will listen to how Matt started his journey into tech in those good old days, way before the dot com boom, his experience and suggestions for the young professional fresher. We will ask him to share his wisdom with us so that we can learn without time traveling. We will also listen to his experience working for Rizana School as a mentor and as someone who is helping to improve the curriculum. We are honored. We are honored to see you here, Mr. Matt. I would like to thank you for taking the time to talk to us. How are you today?
I'm doing great, Jahidul. Thank you, and hello to everyone out there. I really thank you. I'm honored to have been asked to be on your show today. It really is great to be able to talk tech, especially to those who are perhaps looking to get into this as a career or advance their careers. So it's great to be here.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Without further delay, let's start, okay?
Sure.
The floor is yours. Please tell us about yourself, and from there we can, go further in our discussion.
Great. Well, it probably wouldn't hurt to do a very tiny
Yeah,
bio.
just to give you a heads up, like many of our audience should be like, maybe trying to grow in tech, maybe
Mm,
young professionals, maybe someone, maybe not that much knowledgeable about tech, right? Maybe really, many of youths, they're fresh graduates. Many of our mentors, mentees, those who really try to get into tech. So, for them, listening from someone who is experienced, someone who has been in the industry for a long time, and someone has, interest to talk with them, is a great opportunity. So, yeah, please feel free to talk about yourself.
Thanks so much. It is interesting how fast life goes, and to realize that almost 3 decades of doing tech work. But yeah, it might help those of you who are watching this to kind of understand literally where I come from. So of course I'm here in the States, in New York. I live on Long Island. I lived on Long Island for just about all of my life. I was born in Brooklyn, but moved out to Long Island as a small boy and have lived here pretty much my whole life. So I'm married. I have a very good wife of 33 years who puts up with a lot of my tech pursuits, and two boys who are men, 26 and 30 years old. So a good family, and I enjoy all aspects of life, but especially the tech that I do. So I think if I look back in my younger years, let's say my high school years, growing up here on Long Island in the 1970s, yes, that long ago,
Mhm,
it was interesting because there was a lot of math and science going on, and many of
mhm,
us kind of enjoyed doing math and science as young kids. Some kids don't quite like that in school, but I had some very good
mhm,
teachers, even in high school, who supported us in our pursuits of math and science. And there was one very important thing going on back then, which I still remember vividly, and that was the US space program. Back about 1960, President Kennedy said, the United States is going to put a man on the moon by the end of the decade. And of course, we did in July of 1969. Man first landed on the moon. So growing up myself as someone who was elementary, but then middle school, high school, moon landings were very common. They were happening all the time. We were all caught up in it. We were very excited about it, that our country was doing this, and that these moon landings were happening, and maybe some of us even envisioned being astronauts someday. But I think we all appreciated math and science. And because that was happening on Long Island, some of our fathers, sorry, back then maybe women weren't as involved in this technology as the men were. Some of our
mhm,
fathers,
mhm,
not my own, but some fathers
mhm,
worked for some of these companies, some of the famous companies like Grumman Aerospace was one, and Sperry, and these were all companies who were helping to doing their little parts to help the space
mhm,
program. So it was all around us, and I had other friends who
mhm,
who were like math
mhm,
teachers and so forth, whose parents were math teachers. teachers and things. So science and math was everywhere. So that was good. I really liked it. So I graduated from high school and I went away to college. I actually went to the University of Vermont up in Burlington, Vermont,
Mhm.
beautiful place. And my goal was to be a doctor. I entered
Oh.
pre-medical studies and a biology major. Right? And at that age, when you are about to turn 20 years old and you think you have your vision of what's ahead of you in life, and you're absolutely sure this is what you're going to do, you
Mhm.
go to pursue it. Sometimes the road there's a fork, or it takes a bend or a
Mhm.
twist or a road bump that you don't expect. So for me, I always anticipated, sure, I'll get into medical school, I'll become a doctor. But that actually didn't happen. Of course, it's always been very competitive to get into medical school. And for whatever reason, I wasn't accepted. And so I kind of had to rethink what was I going to do with my life. But again, always loving science, not only did I have a good biology background, but I really love chemistry too. So I ended up starting to work in chemistry, and I ended up
Mhm.
doing analytical chemistry, environmental science especially, and working
Mhm.
for testing laboratories that would,
Mhm.
and I actually ran a piece of equipment called a gas chromatograph mass spectrometer, where I was
Mhm.
analyzing samples of water and soil for trace organics. And very, very cool stuff. Yeah, it was a lot of fun. So
Mhm.
that allowed me to get to a national laboratory here on Long Island and do work for them. And they actually paid for my master's degree. And so I ended up continuing on this chemistry road, and got a degree, a master's degree in organic chemistry. So basically, there I was, figuring that chemistry was going to be, my life's trail. But of course, again, things change.
Oh, great, great. So, it is very interesting, right? Like, you started your career. You thought to be a doctor, and
Mhm.
then you started your career towards chemistry, and then you did work for research lab. And I think at that time you had some, you had good exposure with technologies of that age, uh,
Right, right.
right? Yeah. So, and then how did you move, like, from chemistry to tech in early 90s,
It,
or I think it is early 90s, right, the time when you moved
yeah,
to tech, right?
and it doesn't seem like it would be a natural jump, and maybe it isn't. I think we can look back on our lives sometimes and see certain
Hmm.
events, maybe certain people who influenced us, certain events that influenced us, and sometimes those events or people will plant a seed, but that seed might not grow for some time, right? So
Hmm.
another thing to realize in our lives is that our life is constantly evolving, that things might not happen instantaneously for us. We have to be a little patient to
Hmm.
allow ourselves to grow and our experiences to take place and take shape. So,
Hmm.
so what actually happened? This is kind of funny. Now, again, I'm going back many years. Some of you might not have seen this movie, but I distinctly remember a movie coming out in the summer of 1983, and this was a
Okay.
movie called
Yeah,
War
I was
Games.
not here in this art at the time.
Yes, yes. So this is, you can find this movie, I'm sure, on the
Yeah.
internet
So.
now. But this particular movie, a couple of very famous young stars were in this movie.
Hmm.
Matthew Broderick and Ali Sheedy, and it was a
Hmm.
story about a young man, I believe it was a high school student, who was into computers, and it turned out that he got involved with this other person, with this supercomputer that
Hmm.
NORAD, the defense part of the United States that has the supercomputer, and working with this computer to play war games on it. But it turned out that
Hmm.
this computer could also launch all the nuclear missiles for the country, right? So it's
Oh.
just a very interesting story, and it showed to me at that time that I thought, well, computers aren't very interesting. They're really for people who are, I'm not a nerd, although I was, right. I was a bookworm. I was a geek, but I didn't want to admit that. But this really interested me, so much so that the actual only formal course any high school, college, anything that I took in computer science and programming was that fall. I decided to enroll in a computer science programming class. And so for just one semester in college before I graduated, I took a class in programming. Now, back in the 80s, we didn't have
Mhm.
Java, we didn't have Python,
Mhm.
we didn't have Perl. So my course was in a language called Fortran. I learned Fortran 77, but
Mhm.
it taught me the structures, the logical structures. And I filed this in the back of my head and said, maybe someday this will be useful for me. Who knows, right? So you just never know
Mhm.
experiences that you have. But anyway, so that happened, and again, I went on in my career in chemistry, and something happened in the very early '90s. A couple of important things. Some of you all might know this. Back in I guess it was August of 1991. Tim Berners-Lee basically invented the World Wide Web. And we were
Mhm.
about to have the explosion of the internet. The structure of the internet and the science behind it and everything was being developed by the U.S. government. But the fact that there would be this World Wide Web with the protocols and everything, that
Mhm.
basically was the summer of 1991. And shortly thereafter, because of the World Wide Web, Linus Torvalds was able to publish open source his Linux kernel, and so Linux became known about a month later. I think it was about September of 1991. So this was all swirling. And about a year later, while I was working at that national laboratory, I was exposed
Mhm.
to Linux. I said, this stuff is really cool. I found it very exciting, and the World Wide Web as well. So around that
Mhm.
same time that was happening, I was starting to, of course, I was getting even more and more interested in computers and computer science in my job in chemistry because computers were becoming an important tool to have. Computers have come into our lives now everywhere, right? Back then, it was just starting. And because of that,
Mhm.
I realized in order to succeed, even as a chemist, I really should understand computers better, how to program them, how to maintain them, what possibilities
Mhm.
they had. So my mind was very interested in all of this. And so what ended up happening was I liked it so much that I decided to move from the department where I was working in the subunit of doing the analytical chemistry, and I decided to go into the technology subdepartment and work in technology, and that's where that break happened. And I'll never forget there was the group leader of the group that I was joining. He
Mhm.
basically offered me the position and said, this decision that you make, changing from chemistry to IT to tech, is a
Mhm.
decision you're going to probably look back on your life as a very important decision. And he was right. That was where it happened. And from that point forward, my life has been really, it has been technology, my career anyway. So that's kind of where it happened. So again, painting the picture of the timeline, we're now
Mhm.
coming into the mid 1990s, and what I ended up doing was I did get some training in Oracle database administration, and
Mhm.
also some PHP and some Perl web programming. So I began working in that area, and everything after that sort of evolved. But I will say that thankfully, because of my background in math and science, I discovered how much in common computer science has in thinking and
Mhm.
working in technology. Because you have to be able to solve
Mhm.
problems, you have to be able to think logically,
Mhm.
you have to be able
Mhm.
to take evidence and work with that, and be structured in your approach. All of these things that
Mhm.
make you work well in math and science works well also in tech. So I guess it was kind of
Yeah.
a natural fit. So that's kind of how I ended up starting down the road.
Yeah, I see. I see. That's great. Like for many of us, like we feel like the trend of non-tech people coming into tech is like a trend in a current generation,
Mm,
or it's something very new. I can we can clearly see, like from your experience, like this is not something really new, brand new, that it never happened before. It happened, early 90s and 80s during your time.
Hmm.
Because at the time, someone had to jump into tech and do that job, right? The job which was coming up, right? To deal with dot-com boom and things like that, right? So some people like you also did it at that time, transitioned from non-tech to tech, right? From a background literally chemistry, nowhere, nothing to do with tech, right?
Right.
Into tech, right? So it is not something new. I would say that this is a very good note for young professionals like us, or for freshers, those who are trying to really move, that you know if 30 years ago, 25 years ago, people like Matt has done it, in today's situation, the situation is more friendly, right? It is more welcoming. Industry is more welcoming to the non-tech people, to come to tech, as long as they are skilled, they have enough knowledge, and they know how to solve the problems, right? And that's the end goal for an organization to grow, right? Solving their problems through tech, right?
Exactly.
So I would say this is a great thing to know from you, and from your career. Yeah, this is definitely something great. Yeah,
If I
go
may,
ahead.
one thing that you touched on, as we talk about time, we talk about
Mhm.
many years, we talk about decades, and something that
Mhm.
I always like to point out, even to my own children, that when I was back in high school, as we all were envisioning, what am I gonna do? Am I gonna go to college? What am I gonna do with my life? What I do now didn't exist in the late 70s, right? And that might even
Mhm.
be the same for those of you who are perhaps just coming out of university and you're looking at different career paths. The career and the work that you do maybe 15 years from now maybe hasn't quite fully matured yet, so
Mhm.
so things are going to change in our lives, and we're going to adapt to them, and so but I think tech of course is here to stay, and so there's going to be a constant evolution as in terms of jobs as to what we need. So instead of
Mhm.
becoming so focused on I am going to be a a nuclear physicist, or I am going to be a person who is really good at Java and that's it. I'm just going to program in Java the rest of my life, right? Things change, and we have to be
Mhm.
able to be flexible with that. And I'm sure
Yeah.
I can talk a little more
Right.
about that as
Right.
we
So
go
that's
on. But
that's
yeah.
like, yeah, that's the adaptability, right? We need to be able to adapt, as time changes, right? No matter in which industry you are in. This is what I usually tell people, right? You might be in some other industry, you might be in industry which has nothing to do with tech, but if you look carefully, almost every industry is evolving, from restaurant job to driving, or maybe working in the groceries, maybe doing some other job, maybe accounting job, and any sorts of HR job. If you see, everywhere there are changes, right? As time
Hmm.
goes, rules regulation changes, new tech is coming in, and then like doing something new, right? Like
Yes.
back years ago, this much, 1,000 or 1 million people in, right? They have fancy tools. So over time, these HR people also had to adapt the changes, right? So change something must, and gaining adaptability is something important. Something, we have to have that source of mentality to adapt, right? If we do not have that mentality to adapt, and we remain with the knowledge we have gained in the school, college, or in the past, we will actually fall back. Anyone like that
Hmm.
will fall back.
Right.
I think you are a great example of adaptability. You have adopted this thing back in, I think, I don't think so at that time it was so common. It was not common, I think. I'm certain, right? It was there, but
I
it was not common that if.
Right. I think you actually
Mhm.
pointed it out very well that somebody had to move into these positions, right? That it didn't just spring up out of nowhere. So some of us did have to make moves.
Right.
I know some other people who did make the changes, but there are other friends of mine who were into whatever computer science was like back in the 70s, and they still work in that career today. But I do know some who've had to adapt. Maybe it's more common now, but it's certainly uh, was I'm not the only person who did this going
Yeah.
back a couple decades.
Right, right, right. I agree with you. Yeah, that's a great thing. Yeah, yeah. You moved. That's why we found a great professional like you in the industry. So industry actually own the match. So yeah, that's something good for us, right?
You know,
Now.
I'm gonna mention one thing, if I may, that as we progress in our path of life and in our careers, as our careers are
Mhm.
growing, one thing I must point out is that I was very fortunate that I had a couple of opportunities. One was we still have them, user groups, right? So when I worked at the National Laboratory, we formed a user
Mhm.
group for Linux, and this was the way to kind of get started on it. So we were peers, sort of experimenting and learning with each other, and some were a little bit more advanced than others. And so, you know, there was some help for the rest of us. Like, since I didn't have any computer science background, I didn't really understand what an operating system or a kernel was at first. I just thought, well, this is Linux. This is pretty cool, but what is it all about, right? So a lot of people took time to help me, and I think that mentality of mentoring those who have some experience and now are giving back to those who are coming along and want to learn. I appreciated that very much in my early days, and so now, you know, I kind of get a chance to turn that around and say, okay, so now how can I help those who are coming along? What advice might I be able to offer them? What anything really to learn, and certainly the actual technology of experience that I might have to share that with others. So mentoring
Mhm.
and tutoring. I actually tutored chemistry for money as a side job back before tech overtook my life. But you know, so
Mhm. Mhm.
wanting to teach also for me has helped me even stay more interested in this field, because now I get to work with a lot of
Mhm.
younger persons who are hungry to learn, and this is really exciting.
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
that's a good thing to see. And there's also something else I didn't get to mention in my background that might be interesting for folks to know, that there was a program, it doesn't exist anymore, but on Long Island, where I live, the county where I live, had a partnership with industry that tech professionals could do like continuing education for those who are in their careers but are trying to learn more. So I was actually hired as an adjunct professor to teach Oracle database technology
Mhm.
to those who are
Mhm.
just trying to start to learn. You know, so I guess I've kind of always since I've had gained some experience, I've always tried to stay immersed in the teaching end of this too, rather than just, you know, taking.
Mhm.
It's nice to give back. Right? So
Yeah, that's like definitely. I would say like back is a right is one of the best way to get back. That's how I tell
mm,
people, right? So if you back something, you need to really give something, right? Because good always brings good, right? So your
yeah,
expertise to many of us, those who do not have it, right? So if you have that
right,
expertise and you can spread it to others, definitely, if you do it in the voluntary work, you gain you gain one form of satisfaction. But maybe if you want to be long time committed and you want to take it professionally, it is still a way to contribute to people's life, right?
hmm,
You are someone who is actually guiding someone who does not have guidance, right? The people, those who are coming to us, right, or those who like to be mentored, right, these are the people, they have lack of guidance, right? They really do not know the right direction or where to go, what to do, and how to achieve what they want to achieve. Or many people, they really don't know what to achieve or which way to move, right? It is very
mm,
hard for people to make that form of decision without knowing the consequences, right? So
right,
when you really have chance to mentor, coach people from that from that perspective, then you can really help people in a to grow into you just don't help people to get a job, you actually help people to get into a career path which can give
mhm.
solid foundation under his foot as well, for his family, right? So it's a great way to
Yes.
give back. That's what I would like to say.
Exactly. You make a really good point when you use the words, you know, work and career, right? We could just go
Hmm.
9 to 5 and go to a job and punch a time clock and just sort of do.
Hmm.
I guess there's a slang word, you know, grunt work. You're earning your paycheck, and that's work. Or you could have a career, right, where you're really invested in it,
Hmm.
really interested in it, and you're working. You're self-satisfaction of your of the work, whatever it might be that you're doing, and also, of
Mm-hmm.
course, the how you're helping the company that you're working for, and you see
Mm-hmm.
yourself on this growth path that's more than just go to work one day, come home, go to work the next day. So any career should be like that. But a tech
Mm-hmm.
career, now you and I both, Jahidul, we can promote tech careers to people because we can tell them, hey, it's exciting, it's important. Of all the careers you could pick, think about the tech career.
Yeah,
And
here is my point. Okay,
mm,
usually, I do not suggest people to be in tech or to
mhm,
be in certain career path.
right,
I strongly believe in that everyone has their own strength and own interest. And when people choose a career path, it should be based on their interest and based on their strength.
yes,
No matter how much the compensation is, no matter how much benefit they are going to get out of it, because if someone is not interested in any career path, they cannot grow. It is at some point they will trip, even there are so much of money, right? So I feel like to have that level of interest is important to choose any path. If it is tech, then great, it's a great opportunity, everyone knows it. How the industry is growing and things like that. But definitely I'll come back to the topic of work ethics at some point. This
sure,
is something very interesting question I really want to ask you.
sure,
But we'll come back to that question. So
cool.
let me ask you something. Um, I think you have mentioned few of the items, but can you be more specific and tell us that why why should young professional shall choose a tech career instead of there are many other career paths? Why should they come to this industry?
Right, right. So let's assume that a person has at least an inclination, like as you've said,
Mm-hmm.
in this
Mm-hmm.
career path, and an interest and such. So we're not trying to pull people off the street at the subway and say, "You come and be a tech person." No, we've already established that a person has a possible interest in a tech career and some other career as well, and then we're trying perhaps to persuade them that maybe this is the path they want to be. I think more so than ever, technology is a part of our lives. And back when I was in high school, we would talk about technology. It was primitive. I mean, we understand what technology is. I think we learned that in sociology classes. The tools that we have to do our jobs and live in society. So a hammer is technology, right? Just as much as a cell phone is. But now those tech tools, being proficient in a computer, being able to
Mm-hmm.
program, being able to work in an environment that has technology around us, we are really at a disadvantage if we don't have at least the minimum skills. So that's a must. But now a tech career, it's kind of interesting because I think because technology has become such a part of our lives, so too has technology spilled over into other areas of life. So, for example, if I were a doctor right now, I am sure that I would have to be proficient in some type of technology. I'll give you a real good example of that.
Mm-hmm.
When I went to the dentist recently, my dentist, who I've going for decades, finally retired. He's even older than I am, and so he retired, and I ended up joining up with this new dentist, very nice guy. And I was amazed at how much technology they had in their office. Some really, really cool equipment to be able to do what we all just think of. Oh, okay, examine teeth and clean them and everything. But boy, they had invested in a lot of technology, and the persons who were operating the equipment and working with the computers, they really had to know their stuff and be interested in it. So I think when we talk technology now, the palette is greater. There's so many other ways to get involved in technology. I think of biomedical engineers, for example. Hey, you love medicine. Well, you could be an engineer working and creating products that help people's lives
Mm-hmm.
by being a technician. So I just think the opportunities are greater. So a tech career can mean so many more things now than it might have even back 25, 30 years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's probably a good reason for people to think along these lines, because you just never know what your non-tech interests and technology are going to come together and present you with opportunities.
I see. Yeah, that's a great point because At present, definitely there are so many avenues, so many areas to invest. If you think about some people, we may have a poor wrong assumption, or like programming only is developers they are doing, right? It
Mm,
is not true.
right,
Including scientists, researcher, many other departments people, including data scientists, including even there are many other people, those who are doing extensive research. They have to do analyze data and things like that. Even the civil engineers and things like that. May like I do see literally all these I have mentioned, like 3 or 4 domain: civil engineering, education, and data science, data analytics. These are the areas I already know, but there are many other avenues where programming and tech is directly involved. You cannot really think anything, you cannot really think by keeping tech outside, right?
right.
You have to bring it in table, and then you have to deal with this, and then you deal whatever you want to deal with, your research or whatever you want to deal, right? So the definitely the areas are really really wide open, and that could be one of the reasons why people should be more interested in, even those who are not in the field of software engineering.
Mm,
Still, they can look into their ground, right, their job positions, that if they learn something from tech, how that can help them to grow in their position, right? That is like
yes.
another point. I have seen, long time back, one of my civil engineer friend, he reached out to me about this, right? How can I learn Python? I think I can,
Mm,
write some script, and then I can do some of my calculation, right, that can do my job faster. So I received another phone
mm,
call. It was a random call from one of the gentlemen. He was reading one of our blog about civil engineering, programming for civil engineering, something like that, a blog I wrote few months, I think last year.
mm.
He literally asked me that, can you guys prepare a program which can help civil engineers, structural engineers like us, to learn programming and be able to apply that knowledge in their field? Because I have seen, according to his opinion, that I have seen, the demand is growing, right? And I think we have opportunities, but maybe not enough opportunities to learn for that particular field. I did speak with some other field people, like those who are doing research. They said, hey, we are dealing with lots of data analytics tool, right? Or some scientists, they do also have to deal with those models and programmings and things like that. So you cannot really say that, hey, I am not going to learn programming or some form of technology and I'm going to grow in my position. It may not be true for many of the jobs at present. So having, a positive inclination towards tech and technology shall, lift us going forward. It's not going to put us down,
Well
in
said.
no way,
Yes.
right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. Hmm. So all right. So let's, I think we discussed about it, but I think I can ask this question in this way: that do you think do you think someone to start a career in tech, they should have some prerequisite to start with as a fresher?
Yeah, yeah, and I think again, and I've lived my life this way, but I think the most important thing in any career, but absolutely in technology, is you really have to love what you do, and when we
Hmm.
come to work each day, or whenever it is that you work, because a lot of even in technology, sometimes we're working all different hours and stuff, but we'll say, thinking classically as a day starting, the sun comes up and we begin our work day. Each day should be or most days at least should be a day where you really love what you do. You come to work, or if you're working remotely, you open up your laptop and you begin from your home office and you start your day ready to face not just the challenges but the opportunities that are going to face you for the day. And
Hmm.
so if you love what you do, then you're going to be more apt to succeed in technology. It's very difficult to bluff your way through that you don't really like what you do, because it's very hard to maintain a tech career and not like it. So loving the work, I think, is definitely a prerequisite. And I perhaps this is just from my own experience. I always have loved to solve problems, crossword puzzles. I'm not very good at playing chess, but if I were,
Hmm.
I would probably say chess as well. But certainly word problems, just solving problems in general, chemistry problems, and now computer science type problems. Solving problems, wanting to be a problem solver, someone coming up with solutions, is another prerequisite. And not just a problem solver, but someone who can work cooperatively with others as a
Hmm.
team to solve a problem. Because in technology, I find more often than not, it's not going to be yourself as a single person going around and solving the world's problems. You are generally going to do that in the midst of a team, and everyone in a team is going to bring their expertise. And problem solving often happens in small or large groups. So you have to want to be able to work
Hmm.
cooperatively with others. I think that's a good prerequisite to have too. Um,
Hmm.
and I think after that, you really have to want to teach
Learn.
yourself, be a self-learner, right?
Hmm.
Improve yourself, and be open to constructive criticism that others, especially those who are senior to you, can see how you're progressing and can give you some advice on ways that you could do things better. And so
Hmm.
that's important too. So I think wanting to better oneself by continuing to learn and improve on what you do and be ready to be adaptable to changes. I think these are all prerequisites that if you have, if some of this or all of this strikes a chord with you, you say, oh, all right, maybe a career in tech would work out okay.
Hmm. Yeah, I think I almost agree with all these points you said. People's serious internet interest and logical thought process,
Hmm.
and really be able to work with people, because it's not one man army. Our
Right,
team, we work as a team, we
right.
solve as a team, we run. This is a big machine we run all together. It's not one person can just keep this gigantic big size machine every corporations are running. So it's a teamwork, and open to suggestions. One point you mentioned,
Yeah.
it is extremely important, I would say, quality a person to have, because sometimes, often we feel like we are right. A person can never be 100% right. So if we don't listen what others are saying, if our heart is not open, our ears are not open, we are just blocking an opportunity to learn something good, learn something better. We are just losing an opportunity to, you know bring something good,
Mm.
right? Yeah, that's a great point. There's those are great few points you mentioned. Thank you for that. We'll move into a very interesting topic, right? It has been trending around, right, for last couple of weeks, I think, or months. The word layoff, right?
Yeah, that bad
Facebook
L
layoffing.
word, yes.
Facebook is layoffing, Amazon laying off, and then
Yeah.
I think a number of companies, they are laying off in good, small or large number of things like that, right? So many companies laying off coming up in the news. We all know it from the news, right? But before like but this is a very interesting situation, because the crazy layoff, the way it has been started, there, like, I would say people has misconception on this layoff. Many people I met or spoke with, I think is very interesting thing and important thing to talk or address. What do you think? What is your thought on layoff, ongoing layoff, and shall we be worried about it? And following, like, what shall how shall we prepare for it, you think?
Yeah, I think I've been lucky, I can say blessed, that in my career in tech, layoffs have not affected me personally as much as some of my colleagues. And maybe that's just luck, or again, maybe just some intervention that's helped me along the way. But
Hmm.
and some other things that I'll talk about to be able to prepare and be ready to make changes before you're put off to the side. But of course, you work for a company and you never expect that your company will suddenly come upon some difficult times. We're working with, when you're working, whether a small company or a large company, the the budget and the decisions that are made at a corporate level can have a drastic effect on what's going to happen to the payroll. So at any moment in time, your company could decide, our financials are not looking good. We have to make a decision, and the big guys will decide that the ones who are doing the hard work, unfortunately, there may have to be some layoffs. So I think for me, it's been a reality. I've seen this happen in companies that I've worked for. It hasn't affected me as personally, that I've lost my job, but certainly a lot of friends, colleagues have. So I think, so with that in mind, yes, we also go through waves. We go through economic
Mm-hmm.
waves. There are there
Mm-hmm.
are there are pressures of the economy that are happening now that goes in cycles. Okay, all of that is true.
Mm-hmm.
I think to survive all of this, we have to really just be confident in ourselves, confident in our abilities, that being laid off by a company does not mean that someone thinks that you are a bad person, that you have little worth. It can feel that way when you get that notice and you have to tell your family, hey, I don't have a job right now. It can be very scary. But I think being ready to react to changes in the job environment before it actually impacts you, or as it happens to you, be confident in your abilities, and be able to make that move either just prior to or directly after something has happened can help. It's not a guarantee, because I know many friends who were
Mm-hmm.
laid off in recent times who it took them many months to find a job. Maybe that's perhaps some more financial advice as well, to always keep some money aside in your bank account,
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
emergency fund that you can get by for 3 4 months, whatever, and if you're between jobs,
Mm-hmm.
but I think, so being prepared for it, there's a bit of a mental process to understand that in the old days, many, like the fathers of all the people that I knew who worked for Grumman, and they worked those jobs 25, 30, 40 years. They were with one company. They knew they were going to have that job. Very different nowadays, right? So we have to be
Mm-hmm.
prepared that we may have to make some changes and move. So actually, I was going to ask you, even though I have a few more years work experience than you,
Mm-hmm.
have you felt this pressure? Have you seen this yourself? Because we've worked together in the same company, but we also come from different backgrounds. Have you seen layoffs be as perhaps as prevalent, as severe, in your past as they are now? How would you compare the level of layoffs you're seeing?
Okay, so I've been in the industry. I think this is my about 5 years. So very short time. 1/5 of your time. So a very short time. But yeah, I hasn't seen this. Right, I hasn't seen. I have been only seeing a very bright side of the industry, right? Jobs, jobs, and jobs and jobs. Right. This is what I have been seeing. Yes, during pandemic there was some, there were some layoff during pandemic. Many companies survived, many
Right.
company didn't survive as because of pandemic. There are companies like we work for, they are not only survived, they grew faster, right? There
Hmm.
are companies, they went down, right? It depends what type of trade they have been doing. So we have seen that that concern was there, I think, during pandemic too. Many of these people and many of them were laid off. But current situation is, I would say, little bit different than what we have seen during pandemic. Current
Hmm.
situation, the major layoff happened in few major companies like Facebook and Twitter.
Hmm.
These are the companies has been like face of the market of major layoff, right? Facebook got laid off not because of the economy. I don't agree with this point.
Hmm.
Facebook got laid off because of their ambitious plan, right? The ambitious plan of metaverse and investment, the amount of investment they have invested,
Right.
they have publicly claimed that investment is coming, the people will see the result at 2030. How the investors going to keep trust on a company for next 7 years? I don't see any point. I'm
Hmm.
not an investor or financial advisor, but I can clearly see that if an investor do not know what will be the outcome of this much big investment of their money, by Facebook, because their CEO is ambitious to bring metaverse in a reality. It will be reality maybe at some point. Okay, I am not saying it's not going to be reality, but maybe this thing can be done in would have been done in different way. But I don't know. These people knows much better than me. So that is one of the reasons for Facebook to come to a conclusion saying that because their share price was going down, people were losing their confidence because metaverse, they were like losing money in there. So at the end they decided to cut off people, right? People is the easy thing to cut off.
Hmm.
So So big layoff started happening from there, and it has been in the news everywhere that Facebook is laying off 10, and the same time economical downfall also happening, so people has made 2 plus 2 equal to 4, right?
Right.
So this
Right.
is one thing like in people's mind. And then coming back to Twitter, what happened with Twitter? It is not because of recession, it's not because of economical downfall, it's just because of one person's decision, right? um, he just don't want these people to be there, so he need to fire by somehow and
He's,
some way, right?
he can do it. He's the boss, right?
Yes, so this is a very crystal clear truth. It's not like something hidden, right? Something secret,
Yeah. Yeah.
right? He has been laying off teams, offshore teams, also internal teams in United States. But that's just because he just want to restructure the entire things. Maybe he will build something much better than what is today, but we don't know. But again, it is happening in a time when there is a financial crisis coming up, right? People are
Hmm.
assuming financial crisis or saying this is a recession or whatever economical downfall. All I understand, I don't understand much on that finance part. But these are all happening in the same time, right? And then now there are some other companies, small and large companies, they also joined in this march, right? They said, hey, okay, we have earned enough money during pandemic because we saved money on interest, we saved money on buying back the stocks and things like that. Now it's our time to let go some people, save some more money, because the rates are high and we don't know what will happen in 6 months. So this is what is happening right
Mm.
now. Should we be worried like that? That's why your point is right, that in general you should be worried, because if there is a situation like that you should be worried. But the reality is, if there is a situation like that, we get ready, we get prepared. If we have a job, we work hard to make sure that we can keep that job. We keep our eyes open, ear open, be vigilant. If we want to know that what is the situation of our company, whether there is a planned layoff or not, reach out to your boss or manager, right? Talk to him, be frank, say, hey, we are concerned, we are saying that layoffs are happening around, right? And then ask him, like, can you give us more insight that what will happen with us, right? Is there any chance the company is losing 10, 20%, 30% employees? So I think it is wise, if you have a concern, talk to your manager, talk to someone who is in leadership, right? And then many a cases they will come up, if there are people's leader, they will definitely try to find out the answer for you.
Right.
If they're people's leader, if they're a right leader, because
Yes.
right leader right leader never want you to let go,
Mm.
right? Even you even they have to let you go, they want to make sure that you let go so that you can survive, right?
Right.
Giving proper notice, giving proper compensation, and then let you go, right? Sorry, you wanted to add
Right.
something.
Yeah. No, I was going to say, it's interesting too, because we both have experience, and perhaps you don't have as many years as I, but certainly working for smaller companies, working for larger companies, and sometimes in the smaller companies you're a bit closer to the top, and so your corporate structure, maybe the culture might be one of transparency, and you might have an opportunity to know, you get some honest answers about the finances of the company, and your prospects, and different things like that. And I've actually had that experience. I have it currently with the company I work for, and I've had it in at least one other company prior. And it's always nice to have that. As you work for these larger companies where corporate decisions are made, and it's not affecting 24 people, but 20,000 people, it becomes a little bit harder. But I think the advice is the same, and kind of what you're saying too. To yes, to have that dialogue with your immediate manager, and to keep your eyes open. I think no matter how comfortable you are in a job, there's nothing wrong with making sure that your resume is always up to date.
Mhm.
Because there are things that you do in your job, and you have successes, and you always want to make some notes about that. Just hey, I was able to help the company save $100,000 in this particular project that I worked on, or I was able to help a company
Mhm. Mhm.
migrate to a new platform that saved them money. Whatever it is that you've done, and sometimes you forget about these things as you're working, and so you kind of keep your own notes, and just be ready. And if the unexpected happens, you're able to sort of jump back into the market, and be ready to try to find a good match again, if you should find yourself unfortunately as a victim of a layoff.
Mm-hmm.
And maybe also
Yeah.
just stay up on the trends. Recognize the fact that if you're working in a programming language, for example, that perhaps isn't as vibrant as it used to be, and there are other languages that are becoming more popular than the one that you work on. You have to make some decisions. Do I learn that new language because that'll open up some doors for me later? These are personal decisions that someone have to grapple with. Maybe I'll give an interesting example of my own life in that regard.
Mm-hmm.
As many of you may know, there are different flavors of databases. Databases come in different languages, different engines. And some of you may have heard of things like Microsoft SQL Server, or I've mentioned Oracle. PostgreSQL is the platform that I tend to work with much more now. There's MySQL, and so just even in database flavors, there have been database technologies that have come and gone. And so, and some companies will decide to have a strategy of working with just one technology. And so this happens even at the level of a programming language, a database engine language. And so for myself, the company I was with prior, they worked with both SQL Server and Postgres. And the corporate decision was, we're going to really start to emphasize SQL Server a lot more and de-emphasize Postgres. And so I had to make a
Mm-hmm.
decision. What was that going to do for me? I wasn't going to be laid off, but they were kind enough to let me know that the corporate path over a number of years was going to be more of the technology that at this point in my life I wasn't interested in learning. So I said, okay, well, I'm gonna go to a place that emphasizes Postgres, and that's how I came to my present position. But again, at least that was my decision to remain in that technology, knowing that there still is a great market for it. So we just have to
Mm-hmm.
have our eyes and our ears open to what's trending, what's going on in the industry, and again, be ready to learn and relearn. Always be willing to be open to that. And
Mm-hmm.
you can survive layoffs just by having that flexibility and that eagerness to continue to try
Mm-hmm.
to succeed. We might both be able to think of examples of jobs that are perhaps, you go back 100 years, the assembly line worker. If that's all that you know how to do in life is to work on an assembly line, and nothing wrong with
Mm-hmm.
work, but more and more automation is taking jobs away from the assembly line worker. If an assembly
Mm-hmm.
line worker is not willing to advance his or herself to do something more, well, you're going to be quickly obsolete, right? So we have to be ready to adapt to the situations.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. I completely agree. I just want to add one more point here. This
Mhm.
is a very important thing. That's why I'm talking more, I think. I always tell people, if you go to a corporation has a door like many other places.
Mm,
And on top of that door, you will see somewhere there is exit sign,
right, right,
red exit sign, right? Every day, whenever you go to your office, look at that sign once and think this is your last day. It doesn't matter. It's a time of recession. It's a good time. It doesn't matter, because the corporate United States or current corporate world, I think across the globe, the decision is being made by human overnight. They don't wait. And in United States, your jobs are at will employment. So you
hmm,
can be hired at any time, you can be fired at any time. You can say I'm going, they can say please go, right? So this is a reality we live in, right? We serve for a company, we serve for their growth, but there is no assurance or guarantee that you will be there forever. So any company you work for, we should work with sincerity and keeping all those work ethics. But we also have to keep in mind this is not our own company. At some day we have to leave.
right,
I have seen in front of me someone had to leave her desk by his or her desk by 30 minutes notice. That
mm,
individual served that company 18 good years.
mm,
18 good years. The person got 30 minutes notice to clean the desk and then leave. I've seen another person 8 years in a row serving that company with good reputation, very helpful.
mm,
Same, I think that person got less than 1 hour notice to leave the desk.
mm,
And this is what I'm not talking about during the in this time, I'm talking about back in 2018,
right,
19, 4 5 years ago, when everything was good and nice and smooth. But this is a reality we live in. So whether it is a time of recession or what, we should be ready always to do our work and also be ready for there might be a good reason for someone to terminate our job, and there may be a bad reason, unjustifiable reason. We
Mhm.
don't know. Our job is to work and do whatever we need to do. If we don't have today one job, there are many other jobs we can apply. If we think about layoffs and everything, maybe people lost 10% job. I don't know the statistics, but still there are 90% job. There are still hiring, right? There are
Yes.
still hiring going on. We need to understand that. So if I am being laid off, if I have problem, let's go jump and find another job. That should be our immediate action, and we should not lose hope, because there are jobs, because recruiters are still looking for people, not
Yes.
in a greater scale like before. Even then, we have been hiring, we have been listening. It's called hiring freeze everywhere. Definitely there is hiring freeze, but there is also hiring going on. You can go LinkedIn, Indeed, all other platform, you will see there are some recruiters, they're still talking to you because they
Yes.
need to hire someone.
Yeah.
So that's the hope, right? Let's
Absolutely.
keep that hope up and then work for it. Then you should be able to find in this bad time.
Absolutely.
um Again, it has been it has been very interesting time with you. We I think we can continue with few more topics. I think I have in my hand. I know you are a people manager, right? You are a leader. um then what type of individual you like to hire for your team?
Right, right. Someone who shares the same sports interests. No, I'm only kidding, right? So we must agree. No, there are some qualities in a person that I think are a good manager is going to look for, and I certainly will want. And perhaps the most important one is honesty. That if a person is honest with his or herself and conducts themselves in a morally upright way in life and certainly in the job environment, that can 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 make or break a person, and because along with that will come things like work ethic, and will come things like being able to deal with situations. But I think that level of honesty, and I mentioned about being able to take some criticism and give criticism and all of that, it all comes in that same sort of moral fabric that a person has of being honest. So I like to see that in someone's not trying to cheat their way through life, but is willing to admit their mistakes and to be forthright. So honesty is good. Of course, in technology, you've even said it. You're not a one man or a one woman show. Teamwork is really
Hmm.
important as well, and that ability to adapt, to come into situations and to as the more you work, the more experience you have. But even with some limited experience, but good skills, if you can apply what you know to new situations and go with the flow, as we say, that's great. And again, you can tell the people who
So
want to learn. Yeah,
yeah, so how do you, like, when you hire, right? I'm curious to know. Like, I do have my own way, but how do you verify these are the qualities? Such as, how do you know a person is honest to his work? So
yeah.
one thing is, like, we definitely want someone to be able to do their job. That is definitely there. We are not, actually, I'm just excluding the technical expertise, right? This is there. If you want to be, if we are hiring a front end developer for
Mm,
certain technologies, we must want that person to know that certain technology to a certain extent. And it goes like for all other positions, right? So apart from that, right, so the things you have mentioned, honesty, teamwork, and things like that,
mm.
how do you verify that honesty
Well,
in a candidate?
honesty is very interesting, and perhaps a lesson for those who have less experience in the field. Sometimes it's easy. You'll get your resume and you'll say, oh, if I can throw a lot of buzzwords on here, yeah, C++ and C Sharp and Java and JavaScript, and you put all these words down, and maybe you've written like one program or whatever, right? And you're overinflating your resume. And I've come across many persons in an interview, in that first technical interview, who claim who have worked with technologies, but who stumble out of the gate and can't quite even explain some of the rudimentary things that person should know if that person has had even a small amount of experience in that technology. So I think right away the honesty of why a person may have left a prior job, if the person is forthright and said, "Hey, it wasn't right for me," or I had a conflict with my manager, or just being being honest about situations. You can tell that right away in the first perhaps 10 or 15 minutes of an interview sometimes, if a person has that honesty factor or not, and then
Yeah.
you listen, right? You listen to the work experience, and if the person talks in a way that says, I saved the company $1 million, I wrote this program that the company gave them success, or I saved 50 databases from crashing, right? You hear that I word a little bit too much, and you don't hear the we, or how a person learned from others in their job. Then you can
Mm-hmm.
tell those
Mm-hmm.
who are teamwork kind of people or not, right?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's interesting, right? And as you do more of the interviewing process, and as you manage more people, you sort of learn this on your own, right? Many of us are used to being managed by others, and so you don't realize
Mm-hmm.
some of this is going on. Then when you get to put the manager hat on, you realize, oh yeah, this is you can see these things.
Mm-hmm.
It is very exciting to interview persons who are young and eager, and who truly are honest, and who have had, even if with limited work experience, are able to show that they were industrious, that they were able to solve problems, let's say, and just really want to succeed, not because they want to make a lot of money, but because they want to help the company succeed in their goal, whatever the product is, whatever the vision of the company is. The person has a heart, and and puts their heart into their work. That comes through in an interview also. So you can
Mm-hmm.
sense
Mm-hmm.
that, and it's great to
I
have people
see.
like that.
I see. So this is this. I think I would like to take only this point from your statement,
Mm,
like those folks who are trying to go to job market, trying to apply, and please be honest with what you are writing. For someone who is experienced, when we say be honest what you are writing, maybe in a job you hasn't done 5 items, but at the same time you have learned it by your own, right? That is, if you write that thing that you are capable of doing this, it is still we consider as honest, because you
yes.
know that. And keep learning is a very by default rule of tech, right? But you hasn't done something, and then you put it in your resume. People like us, when you see this resume, we can't make 2 plus 2 equal to 4. It becomes very hard for us to make the math, right? Then it just a one glance enough to tell you that, to catch you in that point, right? Someone who is experienced. So if you don't know something, we can teach. Employers are ready to teach. If
Right.
someone is, because skills can be taught. Okay, skill is
That's right.
something easily be taught. If you have logical orientation, if you have a right mindset and attitude, so certain skill set, but we never expect you to have huge skill set, all across all our tech stack you will have knowledge. No one expect that, right? But if you are someone who is not honest, that means it will be hard for us to teach you, because you will never come up with honest opinion, right? So maybe you don't know something, you'll say, then how do we teach really? So you are not open to learn. That's the problem. So if you are not honest with with what you are talking about in front of us, or what you're bringing in front of us, it's a big problem. Is, I
Right.
think, number one criteria to just say this person is not going ahead.
Mm,
I would say. I remember in one interview, I asked one candidate, okay, looks like you have 4 certifications
mm,
from some cloud platform. I just asked him, because based on his interview, his situation is very bad. So I just asked him, when did you get this certification?
mm.
He said, oh, I can't remember. And those certificates are 2 years expiry date.
Uh,
Okay, I know them. So you have taken a certifications maybe 1 year ago or 1.5 year ago at best, and you can't remember. What is this? So it's
yeah.
very frustrating when we you
Uh,
hire. So actually, from that perspective, actually I asked you this question, that how do you deal with that hiring, right?
yeah.
And as an employer, or as a manager, people's manager, your hiring approach, uh, those audience, those who are listening, it will be helpful for them too, that how do we think, right? How do a leader or hiring manager or someone, team lead, they are thinking about hiring. So that's my reason to ask you that question.
Right. Right. And it is. It is interesting too, the process. Many of us are used to putting our resume together, going out, making the phone calls, the first interview, second interview, right? So we're on we're the interviewee, as they say, right? We're
Mm-hmm.
being interviewed, but on the other side, we have to think about what the company is going through. And so, like, I could give you, my perspective as a person who's trying to hire a candidate, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
time consuming for those who are trying to find the right candidate as well. And you think about it, most tech related companies, everybody's busy, right? Oh, and we also have to hire people now. Oh boy, we have to take time out of our day to read through resumes and conduct the interviews and discuss the
Mm-hmm.
candidates.
Mm-hmm.
And so, the employer doesn't want to waste his time in finding candidates, but sometimes you just have to do it, right? And a lot of people do come with a decent amount of experience and skills and things that they've learned. Many who come out of university have taken great classes in programming. They truly do know how to write in, let's say, Java and C Sharp, and go, okay, great, they do. So now you got to go through and say, all right, we got to interview, and we have to find our way through several good candidates to try to come up with the one. So it is a time consuming process,
Mm-hmm.
including
Mm-hmm.
after the interviews have happened, and sitting around a table. Oftentimes there'll be a committee of people who are looking to try to make some hiring decisions
Mm-hmm.
and debating about
Mm-hmm.
the pros and cons of the candidates that they've selected. So, it's probably also good advice to know that even if you're not selected for one job that you've applied for, it just might not have been the right fit, or there just might have been somebody else who just, for whatever reason, matched that corporate culture better than yourself. But your skills are still going to be valuable to yet another company, and so you have to keep trying and know that companies are, like you said, there are companies out there trying to hire, and
Mm-hmm.
it's a time consuming process for the company as well. So they're looking for the
Mm-hmm.
right candidate, and you all out there might be that candidate that they're looking for.
Yeah. And as an employer, we really do not want to like take so much of time to hire, right? Because
Yeah,
it's just like taking time out of our development effort, right? So out of our main job is to do build something, right? And
right.
then we come out of that job and then start hunting for people, right? We want to close this deal as soon as possible, right? We don't want to hire, we don't want to take many interviews. We take many interviews because we don't find right fit. There's the
Mm,
problem, right?
hmm.
um, it is hard to find right fit. It is hard to find someone really has knowledge what they are saying, right? Among, if you look into 30 resumes, maybe 10 resumes is hard to find with solid knowledge. Means that means what they have written in the resume is coinciding what they're saying. So it
Hmm.
is hard, it is not easy. So if you're someone learning right things, having skills and gaining skills, you will win today or tomorrow. Maybe it may take little longer route than other people, but
Hmm.
it is going to be sustainable. If you're
Right.
someone trying to take a very much shortcut, learning very less or little to nothing, and then you may end up with a job by hook or by crook or by backdoor, but you may end up with serious problem, no job satisfaction, because you will be always feeling guilt because I don't know what I'm doing, right? That's number one. Number two, it is not going to be sustainable. You still need to take people's help to survive in that job, right?
Yeah.
And as a person, as an adult, you, I think, having some form of dignity, and you don't want to sell your dignity when you go for work, right?
Right.
We are not living in that age or in that country, right? We live in a place, every individual across the globe has their own dignity, right? You don't want to sell your dignity. You don't want to just make your head down because you just don't know. So knowing things, having proper skills is going to give you right value over the time, but it is always hard to learn because you have to invest your time and energy and get to know what you really need to do, right? But learning something in a hard way is going to pay you in long run.
Yes. Very
So
true. Well said.
thank you, yeah, thank you very much for your great insight, right? uh, excuse me. So as we are talking about industry, right, I would like to ask you one more question regarding this, right?
Mm.
Do you feel like industry is oversaturated? Do we still need more skilled engineers, or we think we don't? You think we don't?
You know, this is a. I think this is an interesting question for a couple of reasons. While it may seem that the industry is oversaturated, there's a progression of life that happens, and I think we're finding folks, maybe not at my age, but certainly a little bit older than myself, who've worked for so long that they've got this great experience and the knowledge and everything else, but they also want to kind of slow down and spend more time with their family. And so I guess attrition is a word that we can use, that there are those who are going to kind of age out of their careers. Either they just want to retire, or they're just not feeling the worth to continue to learn and learn. They kind of tired. They've been doing it for 30 or 40 years, and their time is gone. So there's always going to be that need. It's kind of like on sports teams. If you're a great cricket player, you're not going to be a great cricket player for 50 years. You're going to have a certain period of time in your life when your athletic skills are good, and then there's going to be a time when, well, there's going to be others to take your place. And so I think we always need the skilled engineers, because it isn't static. There's always movement. There's always people going away from jobs, and there are fresher, younger, talented persons who are going to come in to take those roles. And we always need the skilled engineers. You brought up a great point, Jahidul. Skills can be learned. Again, maybe go back to athletics. Maybe some just aren't going to be able to, shoot a basketball accurately in a net 95% of the time. But there are some skills that we can learn, or run a mile in a certain amount of time. Only certain people can do that. But there are some skills that can be learned, especially in technology. And so the willing person who has gotten his or her foot in the door, who's willing to learn more, is going to be a skilled person. And I think we need skilled engineers, because the world's problems, the solutions to many of the dilemmas
Mm-hmm.
that the business is facing right now, still need to be solved. There's
Mm-hmm.
a lot of issues. Technology is going to help to solve many problems that we have, and so we need those bright young engineers coming along who are going to help and solve those problems. So yeah, I think there's always going to be that demand, perhaps more now than
Mm-hmm.
ever. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, I agree with you. I 100% agree with you. And you can clearly see when you look at the, job statistics, right? Future estimation, like
Yes.
there are predictions, right? That next year, how many jobs will be there. And also, if you look into current jobs, you will see that this it is very simple, because the many problems hasn't been solved yet. The problem we have solved, it has serious problem. That's why sometimes you see Facebook is down, sometimes Google is giving trouble, right? Because why? We have created a great technology, but these are not great enough to run without human being. This
Mhm.
need to be improved, this need to be enhanced. That's why Zuckerberg is thinking about metaverse, right? He's not
Mm.
happy with what we have. So this is who we are, right? We are not happy what we have. The improvement whatever we have made, we are never happy. Someone who is inventing, someone who is developing, they are never happy what they are doing as today. So because this is human instinct, right? We will always try to do innovate, we will always try to build something new, we will always try to improve what we have. And over the time, to run these big engines, we need people, right? And this country lack of those people. This is a true statement, everyone knows. Every statistics talks the same thing, right? We need to
Mm.
bring people from outside to work for us, right? For this country, we came from outside and we are working for this country now, right? So because this country need people. So if we think that, okay, tech is like, maybe there is a laying off, recession, downfall is everywhere. If there is a financial economical downfall, it's going to impact not only tech industry, it's going to impact
Yes.
literally every industry,
Yep.
right? Tech is coming in front, because why? Everyone knows tech companies thing.
Right.
But think about many financial companies. I don't know. They are making million and billion dollars. We don't know their name, because they're not a social media. They're not Facebook, Twitter, to known to everyone, right?
Right.
So it is trend, right? News company will make those news which becomes popular, right? That's
Yes.
normal. And if
Yes.
someone says, "Hey, Facebook is losing hundreds and hundreds of jobs," oh, this is going to be a hit news in New York Times and everywhere, right? Whoever is
Right.
taking out that news first. So it is normal. Yeah, you know jobs are there, but we have to be ready for the right job, right, with the right skill set. um, here is one of the very interesting thing I really want to know from you. I would put it this way, right? I have had chance to work with you, And I have noticed a very strong work ethic you hold. I would say very strong. I will emphasize this word: very strong work ethic you hold, which is very rare among professionals. Whenever I talk about work ethic to anyone, among few faces, I remember your face. This is true statement. I have to confess it. How, as young professionals, can we hold that level of work ethic and contribute towards the bigger organizational goal?
Well, first of all, you once again, you're very kind. I thank you for those kind words.
No, that's the truth. Okay, I have to tell the truth to the people, right?
And I guess it'll always go back to those who have a good work ethic in any line of work, not just tech, anything. If you love what you do, you're going to want to continue to do that work and do it well. So it goes again to any line of work, even the person who's delivering your mail, right? Some mail still comes in our mailbox and doesn't come electronically, but we get physical pieces of mail in our mailbox, right? Even the person who delivers the mail, has to have a work ethic, because day after day, week after week, the letter carrier putting the right mail into the right mailbox.
Mm-hmm.
It has to be
Mm-hmm.
there, right? So
Mm-hmm.
getting up to work even if you don't feel so well, all of that. So if you love what you do, great. I think that helps a lot. And I, I think we need to think of our lives as workers are intertwined with our companies, and so they're investing in us now. Okay, we'll talk about the way it used to be in the old days, where companies were loyal to employees and you worked for 40 years for the same company. It's different now, true, but still companies are investing in their workers. We talked about the interview process. Companies that are honest, that they really want to see you succeed, they're investing in you as a person, and so you therefore as an employee are investing in the company as well. Look how many hours we work in a day, right? If you take the 24 hours of a day, tech people, maybe we're working a little more than 8 hours, right? And maybe we're sleeping a little less than 8 hours, depending on, but at least a third of your life is spent in your job. So,
Mm-hmm.
so you have to really want to be there and understand that you're part of the ecosystem of the company. They want you need them, and we're all working together to contribute to the success of the company. And so we each have a sort of like a go back to morals, moral obligation to we're being paid, especially, but even if not, even if we're a volunteer somewhere, we're still investing ourselves into this methodology and what the company believes in, and all of these different things, right? So we really have to think about that we are contributing to the success of the company wherever we are in our skill level. That our work, if we put in an honest day's work, then that makes you feel good, and your company will recognize that, and we earn that trust, and then we get more responsibilities, because really I think that's part of the fun of working. That if you like what you
Mm-hmm.
do, and you're advancing yourself through a particular position in a company, whatever you do, you're going to get more responsibility, and you're going to succeed at that, and it becomes a good cycle, and you keep getting better at what you do. You're helping others to learn all of these things, right? So I think down deep in all of this is just the drive and the desire to want to continue that, to continue to give back to the company, to its other employers, to your peers. I think that all goes into a work ethic. Maybe I'll also say, both of my parents are deceased now, but I think both my mom and my dad also were hard workers, and they didn't sit us down at the dinner table and say, you must have a good work ethic, but they led by their example in the way
Mm-hmm.
that they lived their lives. And so if we're fortunate enough to have good parents, whether they're alive or not right now, who've perhaps given us a good example, or some other
Mm-hmm.
trusted persons that I think that helps you also to say, oh, this person succeeded because they have this work ethic. Maybe I should work this way too. Maybe I'll be successful. So having some good role models in your life can help as well.
Oh, this is so great. You just reminded me something. Okay, you talked about parents, right?
Mm,
My parents are still alive. My
mm.
father is sick.
Yes.
He's in the bed, but he was a teacher.
Mm,
I can recall, I used to, so I grew up in a village, right? And there was a time when I had to go to doctor when I was in maybe 5, 6th grade in that time, or 7th grade. 9, 10 grade. Those times I used to I studied in a village school until 10th grade. So those days when my father used to take me to the capital, it used to be like 4 or 5 hours bus journey, or maybe
Wow.
by the river way or boat. Okay. So he used to take me all the time, like not during the working day, only during the weekend. So we
Mm,
used to start traveling like let's say, I think we used to had holiday on Friday. So
mhm,
he used to finish on Thursday evening, then we used to start traveling to the city and reach in the city at, if possible, reach by 7, 8 or 9, and then if possible see doctor that night,
mm,
and then maybe do some other job next day, and then return back to the end of Friday or midnight Friday to the town.
wow.
Just
Mm,
because he has students, you need to teach them next day.
yes.
Maybe he can take
Mm,
off, but that's going to be a harmful thing for his students. So this is what I have seen throughout my life, the time my father was healthy enough.
mm,
And I know I'm nowhere close to him, but as you mentioned, that having role model is extremely
mhm,
important to build that level of work ethics and psychology. But still, not everyone is opportunate to have that type of environment. But it should not stop us to learn, because
right.
there are people like you, right? We can, you will always meet people like me, and you will always find this type of people in your work environment, right? One or two, maybe if you're lucky you'll find more, or maybe we can still learn from them if we hasn't got that chance in our past from someone else, right?
Mm,
Because we should never stop learning, which is good, right? and
yes.
um, and I would say those who are listening, right? This is a true statement I just made about Matt, and I have seen him over a few years, just from besides desk. Okay. And um, and this statement is very true and taken from the life. It's not hired statement. It's not a fabricated statement. Okay. And we all should hold that level of work ethics. We all should at least try, even we can't, because it's not because they are paying us money. It's because you committed to work for them. You signed a contract. You said, I will work for you for certain hours of a week, and I will deliver what you want me to deliver, right? So that work ethics you should have. There are people, they do multiple job. Okay. I'm just bringing up something different, because this statement will contradict with many other people things with multiple jobs. There are people, they're doing multiple jobs, which is not something new. It's not something like happening today. It has been there in United States maybe 10 years ago, 20 years ago, 30 years ago, right? I met with people back in 2018. He had 3 jobs. He was one engineer. He was a
Mm,
COBOL engineer,
mm,
like old person, right? He was, because he knew COBOL, so he was very, expensive piece.
yeah.
Not many people, so company need to migrate from COBOL to, let's say, some latest and greatest technologies. So he was doing multiple jobs of those days, right? So
Right.
it is very much normal and legal. You are doing multiple jobs, but the question is, are you giving right output, what you have promised to your client? As a techie person, maybe you can get your job done at middle of the night, but as long as you are hooked up with your team, and your team knows what is a deliverable of yours, and can you deliver that? That's the biggest question, right? We you know we all we agree upon with a contract with these people, and we need to make sure that we do deliver what we promise them to deliver. If we can't deliver, we should say, hands up, I'm in trouble, I can't deliver, and I need break, I need to go for something else, and then I will get back. But being that, having that level of transparency bring lots of happiness, and and uh, and that makes you a valuable resource for the company, for the people. Like, you also build strong relationship with people, because people knows who you are and what type of ethics you do process, right?
Right.
And that can save you in the time of this type of disaster. Company will always look forward or back up people, those who backed up the company during the
Hmm.
time when company needed them, right? I'm talking about good employers, I'm talking about
Yeah.
standard companies.
Hmm.
I'm not talking about the crazy billionaires. Okay. um,
Right.
I know people knows about who I'm talking. uh, yeah, because you just kick up people without in a Twitter text. What is this, man? This is what This is nowhere respectful to a person, right? um, all right, no problem. That's great. Thank you very much. I think we are a little over than the time, but we'll conclude shortly. Um, you have been working with us at Izan School for quite a while, right? It would be great to tell that your experience here with our mentees. And do you teach? Do you enjoy teaching our mentees or not? And these are the mentees, these are the dreamers who have the dream to touch the sky. And by some way, some means, some form, you have been contributing in that effort, right? So tell us little experience, tell us about your experience a little bit.
Yeah, and again, I'm very fortunate that Jahidul had asked me to come on and work with him to assist those who are doing the teaching. And as I mentioned, I've got teaching background and all, and I see something very interesting in the time that I've spent at the school. You it could be a roll of the dice that you get a group of students in a class, and some of them might be okay, and some might be lackadaisical and not wanting to really do the work. But I find more often than not that the quality of the students who come to the school and how motivated they are, I'm very impressed with that. I find that the vast majority are willing to really put that time in to learn, because many of them, I think, also are either working on trying to advance their careers, getting into a career. So they've already got that work ethic. They have it. They want to learn more. They're doing this on some extra time maybe that they have, and they're working hard at it. So I like that. I really have enjoyed it. If for nothing else, and I have many reasons why I enjoy it, but just to see that eagerness to learn, it's really there. And you can tell when a group of students are into the material, because they're asking questions, and they're asking good questions. And sometimes in an introductory class, and some of the classes that I've done are perhaps a bit more on the introductory level as people are starting to come into this for the first time. The questions that they ask are of course are elementary questions, because they're not yet experienced at it,
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
which by the way, never be afraid to ask a question. Jahidul, you'll probably agree with me that the worst question is the one that's never asked, right? Yeah. If you have a question, ask it, because probably there's
I
someone else
agree.
who's a little more shy than you, who's got the same question and isn't as brave to ask it. So you have to ask it. But I noticed that as the students are learning, their questions are becoming better phrased, better formed. They're getting it, and they're asking
Mm-hmm,
deeper questions. And so you can see that. I just have seen in every class that I've taught the growth in how students are picking up the material and are learning. And I really am impressed with all of that. And I must say, I really like what you and your team have provided, the opportunity for folks to learn, because you're giving them a great a broad reach of opportunities, many tools for themselves. The classes themselves are great. You guys have a learning management system, an LMS, that really helps. It's not just there as window dressing. There's good documentation. There are
mm-hmm,
lab exercises, and all of this is on the internet, so it's all available at any time to anybody who's in the class. They can have access to this. And
mm-hmm.
there's some mentors who spend their time not just teaching in the classes, but working outside of the classes to help others. And so I guess you can kind of say it is a team effort. Those who are teaching at the
Mm-hmm.
school are working together. And you all do something that I've really never seen elsewhere. You're practicing those job interviews too, right? You're giving persons an opportunity to test their skills at interviewing for jobs. So there's a wide range of things that are provided that I'm very impressed with, that the school does. And so I'm happy to be a small cog in the big machine that is trying to help those who wish to advance themselves in their careers. It's been very enjoyable.
Yeah, so your contribution, thank you very much. Your contribution is definitely significant, and you have been helping us to particular modules with those curriculums and things like that, which has been very very helpful. And I know the mentees, they like you. I have very very positive feedbacks about you.
That's nice.
So
Well, they're fun
yeah.
classes. I get to teach Linux. I get to teach, Postgres, SQL. I mean, what more in life could we want? It's great. It's good.
Yeah, that's true. So while you have been here, right, coaching and teaching freshers, right, especially freshers,
Hmm.
what kind of challenges you have faced?
I always wish there were more time, and I know that what Mizan School provides is a great, depending on the track that you're on, you might be in quality assurance, or you might be
Hmm.
DevOps, but whatever you might be on, there are still so many modules, so many different things to learn,
Hmm.
and so in the course of the many weeks, there were just so many topics, and so each of us who are teaching classes, we get a time slice, right? And so the
Hmm.
hard part is really to be so efficient in trying to cover what you want to in a short amount of time, especially at the introductory level, because as the students start to learn these things, they have more questions and they want to learn, and the clock is ticking. We can't spend
Hmm.
12 hours every teaching session, right? And we only have a limited time. So I think the
Hmm.
time factor is actually a challenge, and for me, it's a challenge to more and more just think, how can I present material more efficiently, and how also can I develop better and better practice exercises, lab exercises because the learning process that you do, you all know this. You've been to university, you learn, you start to learn in the class, but you really learn on your own. You sort of teach yourself by taking the tools that you've learned and expanding your mind. And in tech, the more you can practice at things, writing a program,
Hmm.
developing a query in a database, any of these things, the more you can do it, and the harder that the examples that you get are, the more your brain will train itself to solve problems. And so, being able to come up with the good examples and lab exercises, I think, is also a challenge, because I don't want to waste a person's time in a class by doing meaningless activities. They should be,
Hmm.
useful,
It
and
should have
and
a value.
value. Yeah, exactly.
Hmm.
Yeah.
It should have a value. Every 5 minutes, every 10 minutes you give to mentees, and if you have something to give value, we only take that time. If that does not, like, even if you make fun or jokes, tell a story, I
Right.
believe that also adds value, because that may bring people's, that may make them feel little comfortable, and then they can come back. So this is how I always feel like, if I can't give value anywhere in the globe, whatever my job is, I should take break.
Mm.
I should say bye for a moment, or for maybe forever. If that job is not for me, I can't give value, I just say bye.
Right.
Right? So is value is important thing you mentioned, right? Giving value to the people.
Right.
Otherwise, there is no point, no job satisfaction, right?
Right.
As
Right.
a mentor, you
Right.
don't get that job satisfaction. I think we are almost towards the end of the session. We are it has been really really great talking to you, and this should be my last thing to know from you. Okay.
Okay.
uh, you know uh, Say something for the job seeker, fresher, young professional, which can help them to stay focused for their goal, right? It is, we are borrowing your wisdom,
Mm.
right? So say something which can definitely help them to be stay focused, because many a times I feel like people are not focused.
Mm.
They want to do something, but they have multiple directions to go,
Mhm.
right? You are one person, you cannot run in 5 different directions at the same time. You can
Right.
go 5 different directions, one by one. You have to pick one, then you have to go next. So what is your piece of advice for this type of people?
And this comes from my own experience. I think we have to have that great quality of perseverance for sure, and we
Hmm.
have to believe in ourselves, and also be honest with ourselves and seek help when we need it. But again, like you said too, we can't say this week I'm going to learn SQL and Java and Python and try to do so much. To be focused on one goal and know that there will be some disappointments. There's going to be some struggles and difficulties in learning something, in trying to find the right people to teach you or to be willing to give you some time. But in my own experience, I know that the seeds get planted, and as you, it's kind of like the snowball that's going down the hill. As you learn more, you succeed more, and that helps you to be a better learner and a better student, and eventually you'll become good at what you do, and that will help you in the next thing that you're trying to learn. So I think, being stay focused on the one thing, don't give up, and think that magically you'll become, the world's best at what you do in just 2 short weeks. That's not going to happen. But the time that you invest in it, it will pay off, and hopefully you will be enjoying it as you go along. But just trust that if you feel it in your heart that you're doing well at something, and you're starting to make even those small steps, stay focused on that goal. You will succeed, and there'll be somebody else out there who will probably be thankful for what you are doing, because you're going to end up helping somebody someday. So keep that in mind too.
Yeah, thank you, Matt. Thank you very much for all your time, valuable words, your experiences, your wisdom. All this going to be helpful for the listeners, and definitely it is primarily helpful to me. I am the first listener, so first-hand listener. So I should say that it is greatly beneficial for me. I have learned a lot from you. I have been learning, and I expect to keep learning from you. Um, and I expect to get your wisdom. That's all. That's, I think, very expensive.
Well, thank you.
This
And it
is
works. It works both ways. I believe it or not, I've learned some good stuff from you as well, Jahidul. So I'm always looking to learn from anybody. So I appreciate what you're doing for the younger persons who are trying to get their traction, and learn some new things. And I've learned some stuff along the way too. So and I do, again, thank you so much for this time tonight. I've enjoyed it. I hope those who've been listening have found at least some small grains of wisdom, and have enjoyed it as well.
Thank
So
you.
thank you.
Thank you very much. So, up there, folks, we'll see you sometimes. I appreciate and thank you all for listening. Listening our one of the show, inspire the youth, inspire the world, and we expect you to see you in next episode with someone else. And feel free to join, and feel free to share this episode to the people you think may bring some benefit or value through our discussion. Thank you very much. Have a great rest of the night.
So long, everyone.
Bye.